Tera Sumpter has a very successful private pay only private practice. She has clients begging to be seen in her clinic, SLPs who are dying to work for her, and a passion for teaching about cognitive processes and executive functioning, so much so that she wrote a book about it. So how did she do it? Let's find out. I'm Jenna Castro-Casbon, speech-language pathologist, business coach, and creator of the Start Your Private Practice system. And I'm on a mission to turn stuck SLPs into successful private practitioners. If you're tired of dealing with high productivity requirements, high caseload sizes, and low pay, it's time to take control of your professional, personal, and financial life and finally get the freedom, flexibility, and financial abundance that you deserve by working with private clients in your own practice. Join me here each week as I share tips, best practices, and inspirational interviews on the Private Practice Success Stories podcast. If you're a private practitioner or one in the making, you're in the right place, so let's get started. I get emails all the time from people who say things like, I want to build a private pay only private practice, but is private pay sustainable? Will people pay? How do you explain private pay to parents? As a business owner, you get to choose which payment sources you want to take, but you also get to make other decisions too. You get to decide if you have a private practice that provides more generalist or specialist services. You get to decide whether or not you stay small, maybe even just you, or hire people so that you can serve more clients. You get to make decisions about what you value as a clinician and a business owner and base your private practice around a mission versus just collecting a paycheck, which is where many SLPs have gotten to the point of when they are working in jobs that they no longer feel passionate about. When you meet Tera Sumpter, you will see how having a private practice that is driven by a mission and a passion is a key ingredient to success. Tera is one of the most passionate people I know. Her excitement is contagious, and I hope that listening to her episode will get you fired up and ready to start a private practice that allows you to create a business that you are proud of, that brings steady and growing income, and that serves your clients, your community, and your therapists, but also serves you. Your business should serve others, but ultimately, it should serve you too. Otherwise, what's the point? As you listen to this episode, I want you to pay attention to things that Tera says that resonate with you, that make you think, wow, I want to run my practice that way. Things that make you think, if she can do it, I can do it too. With no further ado, here's Tera. Okay, so before we dive in, can you please share your name, your location, and the name of your private practice?
Yes, I am Tera Sumpter. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, or outside of Cleveland, Ohio, on the west side, and my private practice is Seeds of Learning, LLC.
So, Tera, you and I have gotten to know each other via Instagram, right? Tell everybody what your Instagram handle is, just so they can go ahead really quickly and follow you.
Okay, it's Tera Sumpter _SLP.
Okay, so go follow Tera because she has so much knowledge and wisdom, and she's sharing resources and opinions and all kinds of other stuff on her Instagram. But you also have this really successful private practice where you do private pay only, right? You don't take insurance.
Nope, no insurance, private pay only.
And so that's something that I think a lot of people want to know about. So before we get to talking about your current state of your private practice and everything, can you take us back to the beginning and what did your early career look like as an SLP?
Okay, so I got into this a little bit differently. My undergrad was in math and French. I lived in France for a while, and I ended up getting my 5th year of school. I got certified to teach secondary education. I got out, I was like, I don't want to do this. So here I was, a 20-something floundering, not sure what to do with my life. And I stumbled upon a learning processes research clinic, and I worked for them for about 5 years, and I loved it. So I was like, okay, I gotta figure this out. So in my late 20s, I went back and became an SLP. out of out of graduate school, I got a job working in a hospital setting, and I was basically one of 2 SLPs that covered 2 full-time hospitals and 3 outpatient facilities. So I saw everything. I walked, talked, barely breathed, barely talked, whatever. I saw it. So it was an incredible learning experience. And that's one of the pieces of advice I always gave students was pick a job where you're going to have the most variety so you can figure out, what it is that you really enjoy doing. So I did that. I worked inpatient, outpatient for a couple of years. And then I was also at the time teaching anatomy and physiology of the speech and hearing mechanism at Cleveland State University, which I loved. And then about 10 years ago, after I'd had my second child, was when I started Seeds of Learning. And it just sort of happened. I always knew I wanted to have my own private practice, but it really I had people coming that wanted to come before I went to the hospital and we work with their kids and afterwards. So it just sort of grew. And one day I thought, I'll quit the hospital because this is pretty awesome working for myself.
I love that.
Like being my own boss. Yeah.
So you started on the side of your hospital job. You said you were seeing people before work, after work, probably in every available opportunity, but plus you had kids at home. So
yes.
And in fact, you said that this kind of opportunities kind of fell into your lap, but what was it that really was also making you think, I think private practice is something worth pursuing versus just like staying with a hospital job?
So I don't like listening to other people. I don't want other people to tell me what to do. Let's just put it out there. I don't really like to follow the rules. And, I like to carve my own path. If I have to follow the rules, I do. But I really like making my own rules. It's pretty great being my own boss. And really where I was running into problems working at the hospital was that I felt like I couldn't treat my patients the way they needed to be treated. I felt like I couldn't really do the assessments that I needed to because insurance had me handcuffed. And then once I had, that I couldn't treat the way I wanted to, or I couldn't see them as frequently because insurance had me handcuffed. And so I was just kind of tired of it. I was tired of feeling like I couldn't be the best SLP that I could be because of all these reasons, all these shackles that I had on me. And I was just kind of done with playing by everybody else's rules when they felt completely contrary to everything that I believed an SLP should be and have the autonomy to do, as a therapist. So I quit.
At what point did you quit? Did you already have, like a caseload of, 5 people? Or at what point were you like, okay, not only do I not want to follow the rules, but like I have enough financial stability to make this work?
I really don't think I had very many clients, private clients when I quit. I want to say I had 2 or 3. But my model, I've always believed that therapy has to be intensive. So just like I can't go to the gym one day a week, for 30 minutes and expect to get 6-pack abs, I don't go to the gym, but if I did go to the gym. So, I can't do that 30 minutes a week and expect 6-pack abs. I can't change somebody's brain and how they process information, let alone their physiology, right? 30 minutes a week. So I never liked this model. So I knew I was going to have an intensive model where I wanted to see children more frequently throughout the week. So even though I had 2 or 3 clients, I was seeing them multiple times a week. So it was giving me a little bit of a larger caseload.
Okay, perfect. I love that. I mean, I don't love that you were feeling stuck at the hospital, mind you, but I love that you described that feeling of feeling like stuck and like you weren't able to do your best work as an SLP, which is, a career that, you obviously love, right? So like to not be able to really do it the way that you thought was beneficial for your clients, let alone for you, right? Taking matters into your own hands and doing it. So, okay. So you quit your job, you've got your handful of clients. What happened next?
Well, I had little kids at home, so I was extremely sleep deprived. So I really don't remember any of that part of my life. Now, it all just continued it snowballed. I'm 10 years into this and I've never once done any marketing at all. And, I'm opening a second location here in the spring. Yeah. Doot, doot. So yeah, it's all been, for the most part, it's all been word of mouth in terms of how I've grown. So it really just slowly grew and progressed. I don't know that there was any real magic to how that happened other than that it just kind of snowballed on its own. I think what has helped me is that I have a real niche area. We primarily do executive functioning work along with literacy, but we have an integrated therapy that we do that actually I've created and in the process of getting it written up for everybody. But the executive functioning piece is really huge. And I've created a 4-step therapy approach to that that's been extremely successful. So we have families that drive, over an hour one way multiple times a week to bring their kids to us. So I think having that niche has really helped for sure grow the practice, organically in that way.
Totally. Because when you can become known for something, right? When you become the go-to person in your community, or in your case, like every community near you, right? Then, you become known for that, like one thing, right? So, there's multiple ways to do this, and people can decide, do you want to have a generalist practice or do you want to be more specialized? And it sounds like the specialized route has gone really well for you.
It has. It's been really beneficial. But I think at the same time, when I first started Seeds of Learning, I wasn't, an executive functioning specialist. That just sort of progressed on its own because I saw the need for it within my clients. And so it was just year after year of growth. I think we start somewhere and we don't quite know where that path is going to end, but we just start the path and we're going to take one step and then the next step, and it's going to lead us to where we're supposed to be headed. But I certainly was a very, very much a generalist when I started. I did have quite a bit of experience in literacy, which I think that helped me when I first started. I was getting, literacy with speech disordered kiddos, and that was, pumping up my practice at the beginning in terms of a niche. But the executive functioning piece, that grew over years of just specializing.
Yeah, I love
We have to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
We have to start somewhere.
Well, and I like how you said about being open to where the path takes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. So one of the things that we talked about earlier that now might be a good time to touch on a little bit is the fact that you don't accept insurance for your private practice. I think that there's probably a lot of people who are listening who are very curious about, how that model works. How are you able to get enough clients to sustain your practice? What do you maybe say to people who are like, oh, I can't afford private pay. So could you talk a little bit about what it's like to run a private pay only practice?
Okay, so running a private pay only. So there's one main reason why I chose to not accept insurance. And that is because I didn't want the handcuffs. Like I mentioned before, I didn't want the handcuffs of a third party telling me, the therapist, how to be a therapist. Right? These people at the insurance companies making these decisions don't know what it means or how to be an SLP. So why on earth are they dictating my job and telling me how many times a week I can see my patients, what kind of therapy I can do? It's just nonsense. So I was not willing to accept those kinds of shackles in my practice. So for me, every decision I've made with my practice has been based on quality of care. Quality of care has to be number one, that I can provide the absolute best quality of care. So for me, that meant having the autonomy as a therapist to, again, provide or to, assess the way that I want to assess kids, to not be locked in. I do a 3+ hour assessment, cognitive-based assessment, right? I don't know any other SLPs who do that extensive of an assessment, but I've put it together, created it, and priced it, right? And if families want to come and get it, they get it. I don't have to wrestle with an insurance company to try to get this 3-hour assessment covered. So I can really assess and do extremely deep cognitive testing on these kiddos to figure out where their processing breakdowns and weaknesses are. So I can provide really great therapy. The other issue is obviously the treatment. So I can provide exactly the kind of treatment that child needs, regardless of whether or not the diagnostic code is accepted by the insurance company. or not. And I know, everyone plays games with this to try to, get stuff covered. And I just wasn't willing to do that. Executive functioning therapy oftentimes gets really poor coverage by insurance companies as well as literacy. And those were two of my big specialty areas. So I just wasn't willing to play those games and not get it covered. I think something else that's really key is that our families who are paying out of pocket are extremely dedicated. So they're really, really dedicated to their child's care. And so we see very few cancellations, right? We see next to no shows because we charge for those. And there's incredible follow through, right? So when we're asking families to try to implement certain strategies or plans or whatever at home, we get really great carryover and really great follow through from the families because they're invested, right? They're actually invested in their child's care. And I think that's huge because I know what it looks like when families aren't invested. I've done that therapy before. So we see massive change. We see massive growth with our kids. And it's amazing. I've had families say, that paying for us, a lot of times a session would be the same as a copay for them. I've always worked really hard to keep our rates as low as possible. We are on the low end of average. I just had a mom call me today and she's like, oh, you're the lowest who's quoted us. Even though I'm the specialist in this area, literally writing the book on the therapy and the cognitive processing model, we're still the lowest. And I do that on purpose because I want to provide the best care. I want to be able to see the kids 2 or 3 times a week. And so that is always every decision I make. That's the number one focus for me, goal is that we can provide the best care for what these kids need. So I've always tried to keep the cost low. And so families as low as I can, right?
You said a really important word, which is about that the families are invested, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're invested, meaning like their heart is in it. They're going to pay attention. They're going to do the carryover. But there's also when someone is financially invested in something, psychologically, it's like they want to make sure that they're getting that bang for their buck, right? And that they really are invested, financially too. There was another guest on an earlier episode named Amanda Townsend. She is in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and she also, I think now she may actually accept insurance, but at the time she didn't. And so, listeners, go back and listen also to Amanda Townsend's episode because she also talked about being a private pay practice and how she explained that to parents, and she also used the word investment as part of it, which is what made me think of that.
Yeah. And you had brought up something too, the issue of is it sustainable? Is a private practice sustainable with private pay? And I'm here to say I'm 10 years in and we are always packed. I mean, my own child, my youngest, comes here for therapy and I can only get her in once a week. I can't get her in anymore. I mean, we're so full that I'm opening a second office. So, is it sustainable? 100%. It is sustainable. And I think it's even more sustainable in the sense that I'm not waiting for a third party to pay me, right? So I'm getting paid immediately and I'm not waiting 90 days and rolling the dice on how much an insurance company is possibly going to pay me. I know every week what my bottom line is going to look like. I don't have to worry about payroll for my therapists. So it's definitely from a business standpoint, right, much more sustainable. There are no question marks in terms of the financials. So I think that's really important.
And also worrying if something might get denied, right? Maybe you do a bunch of sessions that they said that they were going to cover and then they don't. And so, yeah, I mean, there's certainly pros and cons to each model. And so I really want you to figure out, what is the model that works best for you, for, your community, for your comfort level, whatever it is. But listen to what Tara is saying, where you can provide really high quality care and still charge a fair price, private pay, but not charge an exorbitant price. I mean, that's what she's doing, right? You could certainly also charge a high price, right? That's what other people do, right? You just have to decide what your comfort level is in this whole thing.
And I think it's when you're talking about charging a higher price, if I took insurance, I would have to charge a higher price because I would have to negotiate down with the insurance companies. So what does that do for a family who has a really high deductible, right? They're going to be paying even more. They're going to be paying a really high price for the therapy until they reach their deductible, which, Lord knows how far into therapy that's going to be. So, there's definitely pros and cons to both, but a lot of times people think that, going the insurance route is more financially beneficial, but, a lot of times it's not. So yeah, you definitely have to weigh the pros and cons to both of those.
Do you need more clients for your private practice but aren't sure how to get them? Why not follow step-by-step marketing plans specifically created for SLPs in private practice? And for a limited time only, I'm offering 4 amazing marketing resources for one low price. Just head over to privatepracticemarketingbundle.com to learn cost-effective marketing strategies that work. What I want to talk about next has to do with your team, right? So can you share a little bit about growing your team and what that kind of looked like in the early days, as far as maybe who some of your first hires were, and then who is a member of your team now?
Okay, so I have absolutely the best team. I'll just put that out there. I have the best therapist. My therapists, 3 of the 4 were all students of mine. When I taught anatomy and physiology. So I knew them very well. I have chosen to grow Seeds of Learning completely organically based around the therapist. So my first hire, Emma Tuleta, who's phenomenal, she came to me and said, I want to work for you. I want to do this. I want to work for you. And I said, oh, okay, great. Let's figure this out. Let's do it. And so we opened an office. And I built an office around her, and then and because she is that fantastic, totally worth grabbing her, creating an office around her. Then another therapist, student who I had came and said, I want to be part of this too. Also phenomenal. I said, great. I don't know if I have a caseload for you, but we'll figure it out because you're 100% worth it. My third hire, my second one was Hannah. I should have mentioned Hannah Lahif. And then Debbie Heideloff was my third hire. She was my only cold hire, and she was like a godsend sent to us. She's so phenomenal. And then we're now expanding Seeds of Learning to an office in Independence. Opening a second office there. And that one is all because another fantastic student that I had came and said, I really, really, this would be my dream come true to come work for you and to come work at Seeds of Learning. And she lives over an hour away from my office here in Lakewood. So I said, okay, let's split the difference. Independence is a great area. And so I'm expanding because of her. And again, it goes back to my number one goal with my practice is that we provide the absolute best care. And so for me to provide the best care at Seeds of Learning, I have to have the best therapist. I have to have the absolute best therapist. So when the best therapist walks across my path, I'm going to snag them and I'm going to figure out a way to make a job for them. And I'm going to love them so hard and treat them so well that they never want to leave.
So I love that so much. Something that you said before we started recording was you were talking about the collaboration time and having a schedule for that. Can you tell the listeners what does that mean, the collaboration time?
So I pay my therapist an hour a week for collaboration time. And the reason I do this is because I think it's so important, or I value continuing education and collaboration as a team so much that I wanted them to know how much I value that I pay them for it. And so what that means is that, they call me on cases all the time. They call each other on cases. We're always bouncing ideas off of each other. And they're not afraid to reach out or feel like they're quote unquote bothering me, or they know they don't. We're always texting constantly. We're like a very dysfunctional family who functions very well, but we never leave each other alone. It's really a beautiful little family that we are. But they're not afraid to reach out and to ask for help or ask for advice on cases and ask each other, just because they know that I value that time so much. So I'm putting my money, the office's money into, again, what I find to be the most important thing, which is quality of care. And so that means that we all have to keep learning and collaborating and helping our clients as a team, not just as individual therapists.
I love that. And that is a culture that you have developed as the owner of your private practice, right? That's one of the really cool things that you get to do when you start hiring people is really thinking about like, what kind of a company culture do you want? And where are your core values as either, a clinician, as a person, as a, whatever. And so kudos to you, Tera, for figuring out, what are your core values and then hiring people or like letting them join your team or whatever when they kind of come to you because they're embodying what it is that you love.
Yeah, I don't believe we should force anything. I just feel that about life. I don't feel like we should force decisions. I don't beg for families to come to us. If we're not the right fit for you, there are plenty of other therapists who will be the right fit for you. I've never had that problem. I mean, people are banging down our door, but I'm not going to fight for someone to stay. And I'm not going to fight to make something fit. It should fit, right? Like the decision that I make within my practice, the therapist should fit. The families, it should, I just feel like it should all fit and it should be organic. Otherwise, I'm trying to pound a round peg into a square hole all the time and I'm going to be miserable, within my job. And so far, we're doing a great job because we all love each other. And literally, we walk out the door at night and everyone's like, love you, good night, have a good night. I mean, seriously, like that's how we end the night when everybody walks out. Bye, love you. Like, I mean, it's sappy and obnoxious, but it's what we have here.
Beautiful, right? It speaks to what you've developed. And that's, that's not for everybody and that's great, right? Other people can, but I mean, I think, listeners, how often do you leave work and you just can't wait to get home or to have even someone acknowledge you on your way out, right? Or, just to feel like you're part of a community of people who is excited to talk about cases and actually that you have, time set out and pay set out to make sure that that is something that you are getting and doing, right? Like that's, paying for, I think you mentioned earlier too, like paying for, time, like report writing time and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
You want your therapist to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The consultation time. So a big part of what we do is consultation with other professionals in the lives of our clients. So, teachers, intervention specialists, occupational therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, all the people involved in the team of our students, we collaborate with all of them. So, email time and phone call time. And I do Zoom, I'll get on Zoom with the intervention specialists. Okay, here's what we're doing. How do we get this into the classroom? And so all of that time I'm paying my therapist for. I tell them, keep track of your consultation time if you've had phone calls this week or your report writing time, which again, we don't have to, we don't have to follow these same rigid rules with paperwork that other places have to follow, which is a beautiful thing, right? We take data and document every single session, but it isn't like massive amounts of IEP writing and, we don't have to do that. It's really nice. But when we do, which we do, we still, our evaluations are intense. I mean, those are like 11 pages long usually. So that takes a lot of time, the evaluation reports. But all that time they get paid for.
Well, again, it sounds like you've created a business that you want to be a part of. I mean, you created it. These are your decisions, but that you literally have clinicians, not only do you have clients banging down your door wanting to work for you, but you have therapists who are also banging on your door wanting to work for you, right? Like that's
been
awesome.
Amazing. I got the best email over Christmas, actually, from a therapist it was the most ballsy email. And she's just like, I want to come work for you. I want to work for you. And so we had a Zoom meeting about, I don't know a few weeks ago. She's phenomenal. And I'm like, all right, well, hold on. I got to get this second office up and running. But, it's been great.
I love it. So you've created this business that serves your clients well and solves your clinicians very well. What has having a private practice done for your life, would you say, as opposed to like if you had stuck with that track of working at the hospital, how has your life been different as a result of changing your path?
So, I mean, I could obviously speak to the logistics of my life and say that, it's more flexible and I can, try to work it around my life. And those are wonderful things. But at the end of the day, it is so incredibly fulfilling. That is the number one, biggest, just factor in, I love my job. I love my private practice. I love my therapists. I love our families that are here and our clients that we work with. It is so incredibly fulfilling. And when I worked at the hospital, I mean, I was ready to go. I was like, all right, let's clock out, time to get home. But this environment where I really feel like I can be the best at my job, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than feeling like you're really making a difference and really being the best that you can be. That sounds so cliche. I'm really sorry.
but that's what you want, right?
You can be. Yeah.
Don't we all want to be able to be our best?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that's how I feel every day that I leave. It's just, I can do what I need to do for my clients and be the best at it because I have nobody telling me that I can't. No third party, no boss,
That's right.
It's pretty great.
It's pretty great. Tell everybody about your book.
Oh, Lord have mercy. This has been the most awful process of my life. I've hated every single second. My poor editor. So I've told her 3 times I was going to throw my computer in the fire and she's like, don't do it. Okay. So it's been awful, but I'm doing it literally for all of the SLPs out there because I've been presenting on my cognitive processing model and my executive functioning therapy for quite a few years now. And at every presentation, the SLPs would ask me like, do you have a book? Do you have a book? Please write a book. Please write a book. So I'm doing this for you because you SLPs, you guys are amazing. And this is for you. And know that every blood, sweat, tear, everything has been in this book. The first one that's going to be coming out pretty soon, I'm hoping within the next month, is called The Seeds of Learning. It's a cognitive processing model for speech, language, literacy, and executive functioning. So it is my cognitive processing model, how all of cognition integrates and works together for the purposes of learning. This book is going to show how all of those pieces, those cognitive pieces, integrate and work together, and then really focus on assessment. So how do we, with that model, figure out where the breakdowns are occurring? And then I do have a little bit in there on therapy, but I couldn't do it all in one book. So the first book is the cognitive processing model. And then the second book, which I have an outline for already, is going to be the executive functioning therapy. So that's what everybody's asking for. And I promise it's coming as fast as I can get it out there. But that'll be the second book. I'll write as fast as I can when I'm not at work.
So the first book should be out soon. And maybe by the time this actually airs, it might actually be out. What is the best way for people to get their hands on the book?
It'll be on Amazon. Yeah. So Amazon for sure. That'll be the best way to get it.
Perfect. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that the listeners know, either about your private practice journey, mistakes that you've made and learned from, people who are listening are both at the very beginning of stages of thinking about starting a private practice, as well as we have people who with established private practices who are just curious how other folks are doing it.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot of advice other than there's no such thing as a bad mistake. So any mistake that you could make in your private practice is going to teach you something. It's going to help you realign your values for your business. And it's going to set you further along whatever path you're supposed to be on with your business or your career or whatever. So I think a lot of people feel held hostage by fear because they're afraid to get started. They're afraid of making mistakes. And I would just say that there's really no such thing as a bad mistake. It's just lots of learning opportunities. And so I don't know if I have any, I'm sure I've made a million mistakes along the way. I've always tried to go with my gut, right? Listen to my intuition and not force anything. Just let it feel right. If the decision feels right, if the people feel right, I want my private practice to feel like home. I want it to feel cozy and warm and like a safe place, because if we have that energy here, then our clients feel that energy. I work with a ton of high schoolers. Some of my other therapists have the younger kiddos, but I do a lot of the older kids. And I can't get them out of my office. Like, they come in and the hour timer goes off after therapy's done. And they're like, all right, well, Miss Tera, what are we going to do next? I'm like, you're getting out of my office. Like, it's time for you to go, and they just want to stay and hang out because we have this cozy, warm, inviting family environment here. And, it's because we didn't force anything. I think you just have to go with what feels right.
I love it.
I don't know. That was probably a really dumb answer, but.
No, it was a great answer, right? Because, and it also, I think, kind of puts like a little cherry on top of what you've been saying all along, which is to build something that you're proud of and to build something that really puts the clients first. And part of putting the clients first, not only is, having a model that makes sense, right? Having cognitive model and executive functioning skills and whatnot, that makes sense. Having a team that can really support those clients. And then just having a whole business that's functioning so much so that you have a wait list, you've got people banging down your door in terms of clients and therapists who want to work for you, and you're opening another location. So you have totally done what I think a lot of us, aspire to do, which is created a business and a life that you are proud of.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I don't know how it happened. I feel like I walked ass backwards into this.
Well, you did something right along those, right? You didn't make any, you made some mistakes, but no mistakes were too big or whatever you said earlier. But Tera, can you make sure that people know where to find you? Can you share, your website or social media or whatever links would be helpful for our listeners?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram, because that's where I'm the most active. So there, Tera Sumpter _SLP. My website for Seeds of Learning is www.seedsoflearningllc.com. So people can check out there. That's where I have information about the private practice. I also have information on professional development that I do there, so people can see the types of professional development that I do for, everything from hospitals to school districts to private practices. I mean, all over, OTs, PTs, school psychologists. I mean, I've presented to a lot of different organizations. So all of that information is on my Seeds of Learning LLC website. And on there, you can find my email too. So people can feel free to reach out and email. A lot of people find me through Instagram and connect that way with questions, professional questions. But I'm trying to get the executive functioning info out to everybody. I know everybody's anxiously awaiting. So it's an important part of what we do that's not quite very well understood yet. So I'm doing my best to change it. It's coming.
Well, and yet is the operative word. So Tera's book will be available on Amazon. Hopefully it already is available by the time this recording goes out. So go check it out. But in the meantime, follow her on Instagram and really, re-listen to this episode, because she dropped a lot of gold nuggets about how to really design a private practice, again, that works for you, works for your community, and is something that you can be very proud of. So thanks again, Tera, for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
So isn't Tera amazing? I hope that you enjoyed her energy, her passion, her willingness to share her model and how it works for her, and that you can take away some tidbits from this and start to figure out what aspects can work for you too. If you're all jazzed up and ready to start a private practice that is in line with your passions, and you want to focus on providing high quality care to people in your community who need you and will gladly pay for your services, I want to invite you to my free training where I outline the steps of how to start a private practice. And yes, I do discuss payment models during the training. So head over to startyourprivatepractice.com/webinar and watch the free training, which lasts about an hour and will teach you the ins and outs of private practice. I hope to see you there. I also hope to see you next week for another episode of the Private Practice Success Stories podcast. Until then, go out there and help more people And don't forget to help yourself too. Talk soon.
Have been toying with the idea of starting a private practice for some time now. So even being a full-time working mom, it was really nice to have a system that was all set up for me. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel or start from scratch.
And I was able to land a client within about the first week and a half of me going public with my private practice.
So now I have 12 clients. It is such an invigorating and amazing experience.
If you want help to start your speech therapy private practice, then head on over to startyourprivatepractice.com/waitlist so that you will be notified as soon as we reopen the doors to the Start Your Private Practice system. Again, that's startyourprivatepractice.com/waitlist.